was classified. The Inspector General's report, which recommended courts-martial, was filed away. General Patton allegedly destroyed or suppressed some documentation. The official narrative of Dachau's liberation focused entirely on the camp's horrors and the rescue of prisoners. For decades, most people didn't know that American soldiers had killed surrendered SS guards. It wasn't in the history books, it wasn't taught in schools. Veterans who were there mostly stayed silent, either from shame, guilt, or a belief that they'd done the right thing in an impossible situation. It wasn't until the 1980s and 1990s, as historians gained access to classified documents and aging veterans began speaking more freely, that the full story emerged. And when it did, the reaction was complicated. Some people were outraged that war crimes had been committed and covered up. Others argued that the SS guards at Dachau deserved what they got, and calling it a war crime was technically correct but morally absurd. The legal argument is clear. Yes, it was a violation of the laws of war. Surrendered prisoners must be protected. That's the rule, and rules matter, especially in war. But the moral argument is murkier. If you walk into Dachau, if you see what those men saw, if you smell what they smelled, can you really judge them for those few minutes when rage overwhelmed discipline? Churchill clearly believed the answer was no, or at least that judging them publicly would do more harm than good. Here's what Churchill understood that many didn't. Dachau wasn't an isolated incident. Throughout the final months of the war, as Allied forces liberated camps across Germany and Poland, similar incidents occurred. At other camps, guards were killed after surrender, some by Allied soldiers, some by liberated prisoners, some by both. The scale varied, the documentation varied, but the pattern was clear. When soldiers encountered the absolute worst of human evil, some responded with violence that violated military law. The question wasn't whether to punish every incident. That would have meant courts-martial for hundreds of soldiers across multiple armies. The question was whether to make examples of some or to handle it all quietly. Churchill chose quiet, not because he thought the killings were right, but because he thought public trials would be wrong. They would distract from the larger truth, which was that Nazi Germany had built an industrial murder system that killed millions. That was the story that mattered. That was the evil that needed to be exposed and punished. The irony is that by choosing to downplay Allied misconduct, Churchill may have actually strengthened the case against the Nazis. The Nuremberg